Welcome back, and now we'll be talking about the Supreme Court's final verdict yesterday. Of course, the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the rightful president, and of course, the person that won the February 25th election 2023. And now joining us is a legal practitioner, Uthman Issa Chachiku. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to see you once again. And before you enter the studio, I heard you say it's safe to tell you congratulations, so I'll just tell you your congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Congratulations. So where are we celebrating?
Well, we are celebrating the victory for democracy. Okay. We are celebrating victory for Nigeria.
Okay.
You know, one thing is for sure. Just like Honorable Justice Nikki Toby said, as he then was, he said that the only clientele of the law is the law, and not public opinions or sentiment or what we hear, you know, in the bar where you drink your wines and all of that. And that is what has been demonstrated,
okay,
you know, before the Supreme Court yesterday. If you observed, you know, the rulings that came out from the Supreme Court, you would appreciate what the law is all about. You know, the Supreme Court, among other holdings yesterday, said that the reason why one of the applications they sought to tender in order to adduce that new evidence. And recall, about last 2-3 weeks I was here, I told you that it's not a question about adducing new evidence. It's whether the Supreme Court will agree to admit the evidence. And that is what had happened. That there is a constitutional provisions and electoral act that said 180 days for the tribunal to conclude, you know, whatever proceedings that is before them. And then 21 days for all the parties to adduce evidence at the court below. And what that provision said is that once you are out of this time, there is no more extension of time. So, since the evidence was not adduced at the court below, i.e. the tribunal, there is no way the Supreme Court could activate their powers to allow them, you know, bring in that evidence. And the Supreme Court said on the basis of that, that should outrightly be refused and dismissed. And on that basis, it was dismissed. Among other issues was issue of IREV that was raised. That because the election results were not transmitted via the IREV, that should vitiate the election. The Supreme Court said no. The reason being that there were manual collations and you had all your agents at the polling booth. So the fact that the results were not transmitted at the IREV, and INEC has their powers within their laws as independent institutions, right, to decide which means they can transmit their results. So if they choose to go manual, you cannot say because they did not transmit
if they choose to go manual, of course the court has said whether they choose to go manual or of course transmit in real time, it doesn't matter. But don't you think that's going to affect the next 3 elections we're having next month?
No, the question of whether I think,
because now they could easily actually not put the results out in real time, and they would say, of course, the court has ruled in their favor the first time, and then it's easy access for them the second time.
And that's what I'm saying. The fact is that every political party has an agent.
So why not just scrap the IREV then?
At the polling unit? No. They were not saying that at a time they will not use IREV, but we are saying that in case there were reason for INEC not to use IREV.
Are we going to
what we should be looking at?
Yeah?
No, let me finish. What we should be looking at is, if INEC say they are not going to use IREV, and INEC also say they are not going to recognize the results that came manually from the polling unit, it's a different issue entirely. But they say the results that were collected from the polling unit, because we had hitches on the network, we are going to use that particular result so long as it was certified at the polling unit and all the agents of the political parties.
Didn't they make preparations for network issues? Because of course you have some villages in Nigeria where you can even barely find network there, and if you know that you are going to have network issues, why not just scrap all of it at the same time and let's just go back to manual results? Because we cannot continue to be mediocre as a Nigerian and say we're settling for less, and when you've promised, because now they've made us realize that it's not constitutional for them to transmit results in real time. It's a promise, correct? So now in the next 3 months and the next 3 elections, that's Kogi, Bayelsa and Imo State, if they do not transmit these results in real time, that means nobody can hold them accountable to all of these things, and it's easier now for them to actually say, oh, there was no network, so we
I do not think that is the right position. I do not think that is correct, that nobody could hold them accountable because they did not transmit the results in real time. The question is not about transmitting results in real time.
So what was the
question is about whether the results that was collected from the polling unit was as the same as it were collated, and whether the agent of those political parties certify such results. These are areas you can go.
There are issues with the Form ECATA. Whether some persons have said the what is on Form ECATA could were not tallying with what.
Then why couldn't they prove it? Of course, it's an allegation, and you had all your ample time to prove it, and that was why they were in court. And by the way, let me first of all even thank Mr. P2B and Labour Party, at the same time Atiku Abubakar and PDP for enriching our electoral jurisprudence, because there are several issues that were distilled, including that of 25% in FCT. You know, and these are issues that actually we have learned from, especially as lawyers. Some lawyers were of the view, including myself.
Okay.
I had this view that the fact that 25% were not scored, you know, by the president, right, that could actually impugn, you know, his being announced as
okay. So
at the end of the day,
okay. So let me quickly ask you this question. So now the president is sitting in Aso Rock, and Aso Rock is an FCT, but then he doesn't have 25% in a state where he is currently sitting. How does that sit well with you?
No, it just the way the law is.
And then since
299 before now,
okay. And since we do not have since FCT does not have extra rights, I'm trying to
does not enjoy a certain privilege over
other states. So why not make it a state?
You see, the point is this. What we're saying is, and this also has to do with the law. Okay. When the Constitution said FCT, when it comes to presidential election, just does not enjoy special privilege when it has to address the issue of 25%. If you have 25% in 30 states and you don't have in FCT, would they say because you don't have in FCT, they should not announce you as a winner? That is the limits to which, that is the extent to which FCT can enjoy that privilege, but not with regards to other states. Like FCT should have a governor, FCT should have 3 senators.
If it's not enjoying other privileges well, it's only normal for people to think that you should just make a state, and then
that's why when I started this conversation, I did said that the only criteria of the law is the law, and that is the law.
I'm speaking from that, so that means the law can be interpreted into whatever suits any judge.
You see, and that also brings me to the sayings of Oliver Wendell Holmes. Okay. He said that the philosophy of what the court will do in fact and nothing more pretentious, that is the law. The court is the law. Whatever the court says, based on the understanding of the interpretations, and that's why you have to stretch, you know, that kind of interpretations up to the Supreme Court. If you disagree with the holdings of the court below, you have your right of appeal for Court of Appeal to review that finding and give it more interpretation. But the point and the answer to this is that yes, whatever the court says is what the law is.
What the law is.
Yes.
Okay, now who do you think he should be blamed by? Is it INEC or the court for not being good enough in working in line with their conduct? Because I would actually speak more from INEC, and you would probably bring it us in from the judiciary. INEC, we have subsequent records of them making promises and all of that. The recent one now is they've printed ballot box papers, and now we still have party issues which are pre-election matters. An election is happening next month. I mean, first week of, I think, between the first 2 weeks of next month, November. So now, who are we supposed to hold accountable if anything happens? Because now INEC has come out to say, oh, these things are not something you just that just happens overnight, so you have to give us ample time to prepare. But then in our preparations now, we've printed ballot papers. But then some parties even still have issues in-house.
No, I do not think there is any body to be held accountable here. Okay. What is more important is that Nigeria as a whole and as a nation is a work in progress, right? And it's expected that INEC is not a god. These are institutions and manned by human beings, right? We believe on the independence of INEC, and we also believe in the integrity of the system. However, like we say, in every general rule, there's an exceptions, right? The fact that these guys who are managing these institutions, such as INEC, are human beings, is expected that there are limitations to the extent of what they can do in terms of performance. And this is where our criticism will come in. It's not enough to just criticize these people without providing solutions to these things. We already know our challenges in this country when it comes to, you know, internet and routers, right? But some of these challenges actually we could learn from our past, so that we can be able to improve as the process begins to grow. And to even bring in judiciary here, I do not think judiciary has any brain. Like I always say, whenever you go to court, the court can only distill issues based on the facts and the law that were presented before it. They cannot manufacture. Court is not a Father Christmas. It only gives you what you ask from it. It's only Father Christmas that just call you and give you gift, whether you ask him for a gift or not. Court does not do that. So court decides based on the fact that were presented by lawyers before it, and then they take their decisions. So either court or INEC have no blame. What we should be talking about is how we are going to improve the system. How many times have we made suggestions to INEC, write to the chairman of the commission, or even invite the chairman of the commission in an open conference to advise the chairman that this is how this thing should be improved? Each and every one of us as citizens of this country have our right to contribute in the nation building, including those who have lost at the Supreme Court. They also have the right to bring those things they feel that the president does not have, or those things that the president is not seeing. If you believe in the growth of this nation, if you believe, in one Nigeria, I think it is time for them to now come and build this country together.
Okay, all right. I like that perspective, but then let's take it back to IREV and, of course, uploading of results. Don't you think this has reduced the confidence of the citizens in INEC? And, of course, how would these actually affect the next election? And could it be said that the election is credible, given that the citizens, some citizens do not trust the electioneering process? And don't you think this might actually cause the voter apathy? Because
the result was not transmitted through IREV.
Transmitted in radio.
Let us be very sincere with ourselves. Over 200 million people in Nigeria. By percentage in terms of population, how many people have access to the internet to monitor the election in real time when election is going on? How many people? Let us be factual. And then out of these people that can monitor this election, in fact, how many of us can categorically stay on our glue on our screen for the time period that the elections is going on in this country, to compare and contrast whether what was transmitted via IREV is the same thing that was collected at the polling unit. I keep on saying that what is important is that every political party have their agents as a matter of requirement by law represented at the every polling unit where election is taking place. Now, even the election, the result that were going to be transmitted via IREV had already been submitted by it and shown at that point, where each of the agents will certify that yes, truly this is the number of votes that were obtained at that polling unit. So what is the problem if peradventure INEC had an issue and was unable to transmit that result via IREV when we already have the manual result? It's like saying you wrote a JAMB and you have already known your score, but before JAMB could transmit it so that you can print it anywhere you are in the world, you cannot access your result. But you already have your score even before it was transmitted. So what is the problem? Is it because there was no internet for you to access your results? Why can't you go and use the manual if you have it? You have the manual, and the manual can be questioned if they tamper with your result. And that's the reason why the court is there, to compare and contrast. And that is what the court has done. I do not think it's anything to undermine the integrity of the system. I don't think so.
Okay, right. As we wrap up, I know your stand on it, but then I would like our viewers to, of course, know about this. Do you accept and reason with the Supreme Court verdict yesterday? Of course.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer, and whatever the court said is final. And just like the Supreme Court said, that we are not final because we are infallible. We are rather infallible because we are final. And this is because there is no more appeal after the Supreme Court has. You have to wait for the day of judgment, and then God will decide who is the legitimate owner. And that is what had happened. And for me, it is the most beautiful thing that has happened in our electoral cycle. And we have enriched our jurisprudence. For example, this particular issue that has to do with 25% in FCT, we have not had a suitable authority on this particular issue, and now we cannot make a reference to the precedent anytime it happens in future. And I think for me it's one of the best judgment that we could have in recent time from this Supreme Court.
All right. I'd like you to leave a parting note with our viewers at home, given that, of course, the verdict happened yesterday, and now the federal government is allowed to, of course, say they are fully going to face Nigerians or the economy and hardships we have right now, what do you think Nigerians should be expecting from the said government?
First of all, I would like to first congratulate Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on his victory from the Supreme Court. At the same time, I also want to urge other state actors to bring in their expertise to bear in support of Mr. President to build Nigeria. And for us Nigerians, I know things are tough and getting worse, and the only thing we can do as citizens is to be patriotic and support the government in whatever policies they have taken, and also criticize government, with a very sound criticism where they have taken a wrong decision, because they are human beings too. And we should be law-abiding citizens. We should not resort to taking laws into our hands when we disagree with the some decisions that may come from government. We should put ourselves together and join hands in supporting the policies of government to build our country. Nobody is coming to build our country for us. This is the only country we have, and this is Nigeria. It's our Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Man Isato Chukwu, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you join us some other time, and congratulations on the author once more.
Thank you.
All right, our viewers, at home, you've heard from Uthman Isato Chukwu. We have a president. Well, come what may, whether you like it or not. Of course, like I'd always say, we are only allowed to have one winner, and of course, might be one loser or plenty losers. But in this case, we have one winner, and that is in person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we do hope and, of course, encourage that we have the renewed hope agenda. This is what we draw the curtains for today's Polity, and of course this week. Thank you, our viewers, for staying tuned with us from Monday to Friday, and thank you to our producers, backstage guys, Daniel, Ayobami, and of course for Larry. Thank you so much, and thank you to myself too, because that is needed. I am Messi Babajide. See you same time, same station next week. Bye.